Well, folks, town meeting is over. Many will be happy to hear that Article 44 concerning noise was reconsidered as amended by Piper Slowinski and passed with her new language that specifies penalties as applying within any 12-month period. In other words, if you get a warning this year for a noise complaint and then your next offense isn't until 2028, that second ever offense will get another warning rather than a $100 fine. And it also requires the officers responding to a noise complaint to record unacceptable noise levels on a calibrated decibel meter rather than at their own discretion to keep enforcement from becoming arbitrary. The police department will have to do some research to figure out what meters to get and how much that will cost, so the bylaw won't actually be enforceable until after we appropriate funds for it, but it will now be on the books. On a procedural note, Town Moderator Bob Mullen explained that motions to reconsider failed articles could only be brought forward by people who had voted with the winning side, in other words, against the original article. So that was interesting and worth keeping in mind for future meetings. I've seen vote switching happen at the federal level for just such reasons, but I didn't realize it was a thing at the municipal level too. What makes it a bit more complicated at the municipal level is that the vote count in either direction isn't revealed on the screen until the vote is over, so there's no real opportunity to switch your vote just because an article appears headed for failure. You have to go with your gut. Anyway, other than reconsidering, amending, and then passing Article 44 as amended, we mostly deposited money into various stabilization funds. We transferred a bit over $1 million from free cash to pay for the new school project in order to reduce borrowing costs and ease the burden on the taxpayer, and we discussed transferring an additional $600,000 or so, but the town accountant and manager both advised against that addition, because apparently we have a bond rating of financial audit coming up soon, and if we keep the $600,000 in its current unallocated state until after that snapshot of our financial situation is taken, it will look better for Moody's and likely result in a better bond rating than we might get otherwise. It was a relatively close vote, 50-something, maybe 47 to 70-something, but we decided to take the accountant's advice and leave the $600,000 where it is for now, transferring only the aforementioned million plus to the school project fund. People found the discussion around this last situation particularly confusing, because we ended up with some very strange bedfellows that did not align with past left versus right alliances. Finance Committee outgoing chair Von Enochian was in favor of the extra transfer, in opposition to the town manager and accountant. A few right-wing members, who are usually all about saving the taxpayers' money, came out against the transfer, while several, but not all, more progressive voices were in favor. And it was all very confusing for anyone who is used to the teams being a certain way. I personally found myself aligned with the fiscally conservative let's keep the money in the account side of this argument, because the argument for waiting until after the Moody's bond rating made intuitive sense to me. It reminded me of how desperately I wanted to keep a lousy job that I hated until after we closed on our house. Wanting to keep things a certain way to impress a financial institution until after they've made their decision was a relatable concern. I lost that dreadful job all of a week after we closed and walked home feeling free as a bird. At the beginning of the night, at Jess Miner's suggestion, we had voted to suspend the rules to allow us to go past 10:30 if necessary and stay until all business was concluded so that we could guarantee that we wouldn't have to come back on Wednesday. We needn't have bothered, though, because the business of both the annual town meeting and the special town meeting was done by a little past 9 p.m. I felt like throwing a graduation cap in the air, like so many grads must have done this past weekend. Till next time.